Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be discussing about the topic of Uber drivers and how to file taxes if you are one. But before I actually start the video, I just want to put out a message about being ready in life and having everything ready for when you're discussing something or when you're going to do something. So let's say you go to the doctor and he asks you, what symptoms do you have? If you look there with a confused look on your face, it's really going to put him off and make him really angry at you because he has a lot of other stuff to do and he doesn't want to deal with your unreadiness and the fact that you don't have anything ready for him to actually see. Same thing if, let's say, you go to a lawyer and he asks you for paperwork. If you don't actually have that with you, it's really going to make him angry and tick him off and not make him want to work with you. He's probably going to abandon you as well. So this is just one of the important skills in life, is being ready for everything and having everything compiled together. So this is just a message I wanted to put out before we actually start the video. Hope you enjoy. So here we're just looking at a prerequisite that's required for all Uber drivers that are filing their taxes, is that you need a GST number if you're employed in Uber. It's really bad if you don't have this, because then you'll have to pay the GST out of your own pockets, which you don't want to do. And if you want to obtain this number, then all you have to do is call this number right here, 1-800-959-5525. And from here, you can obtain your GST number from the CRA. So when you work in Uber every year, at the end of the year, you get a yearly summary from the company that has a lot of things. And those include things like Uber fees, airport tax, city tax, and tips. And then on top of that, you'll also get your GST. It's a 5% rate that you're collecting back from Uber, that it collected from you every time you got a customer. And it also gives you a mileage rate. But you have to be careful about this one, because this only gives you the mileage rate of when your Uber is active. So let's say you drive from downtown to Northwest Calgary to pick up a customer. That actual mileage where you drove from downtown to Calgary does not count, because you're just getting from point A to point B. The customer is not actually in your car and you're not actually driving them somewhere. So that mileage doesn't count. And so when you actually file your tax return, we're actually going to see this in the next step, is you can actually count in more mileage, is you can actually count the distance that you drove from downtown to Northwest, and you can count that as part of your mileage. This is going to be really important, and we're going to see that in the future steps. And on top of that, the slip will also include the commission, and this counts as an expense. It's 25% of your income of your Uber fees that Uber took from you for the company, and that counts as an expense. Now, when you're filing your taxes, you do not have to include airport tax and city taxes as your income. These you don't include them when you file your taxes. You only count the Uber fees and tips as your net income. These only go to the airport and the city which you work in. So let's say Calgary Airport and the city of Calgary. They do not actually come back to you. So you'll see that when you get back your slip, is that these two amounts will not be added to your net income. A lot of the mistake, this is the biggest mistake that they do, is they actually include these in their income, and then it turns out they show a bigger net income and actually have to file more taxes than they should have. So now we're going to look at an example of an Uber driver and see how we calculate the income and expenses for a driver like this. So here first we see that the income of an Uber driver is considered the Uber fees. Here we got that the net income for him was $10,000, and the GST that he got back from the company is $250. Next, we move on to the expenses of the Uber driver, which we can claim. And here, first thing we see is telephone. We claim it as $1,200, and the GST on that, which is 5% of the net expense, is $60. So the thing with this is that only some things will have GST and some things won't. So like things like Uber commission and depreciation do not have GST with them. Now here we claim the Uber commission net expense is $2,500. So that's another expense. Now we go down to supplies. We claim it as $200. So supplies would be things like, let's say in your car, you stock up on water bottles for the customer, or you have some snacks for them to eat. So that also you can incorporate into your costs. And the GST on that value is 5% of that, so that's $10. Now we get to the tricky part, which is calculating the expenses for your vehicle costs and the depreciation value. Now the way you do this is that there's a certain percentage of these two costs that you can claim as your expenses. And you calculate that as a percentage of your business mileage compared to your total mileage. Now, the way you calculate your business mileage is the mileage that you actually use when you're doing your job, so when you're actually driving your Uber. So that's January 1st to December 31st business mileage, which you can track by an online application. Now, some may ask, why is it important to use an online application? Why can't I just use the amount they have given me on my summary? Now, as we discussed before, the actual amount on the summary only gives you the mileage that happens when the customer is actually in your car, not when you're getting from point A to B. So if you get an order, let's say that's 10 kilometers away, then you actually have to drive that 10 kilometers, but Uber doesn't track that as a part of your mileage. So because of this problem, it's better to use a business mileage application that tracks your mileage whenever you're in your Uber, and you can start it when you start the day off and turn it off when you're done your Uber. Then we get to the total mileage, and the way we calculate this is the difference of mileage in your mileometer between the first and last day of the year. So here at the beginning of the year, it said that he had 10,000 miles covered, and at the end he had 20,000 miles covered. So during the year, he rode 10,000 miles. Now we take the business mileage as a percentage of the total mileage, so 5,000 divided by 10,000 times 100%, and we get that the percentage of expense we can claim in our vehicle and depreciation costs is 50%. So whatever expense we calculate from that, we can only claim 50% of that because we were only using the car for the Uber job for 50% of the time. So using this percentage, we get to the vehicle costs. So here we see for gas, we claimed $5,000, and we also claimed the GST on that as $250, because if you go to places like Mr. Lube, they also charge GST for that. For repairs, we also said it was $2,000 and put in the GST as $100, and also for a car wash, which we put in as $100 and GST as $5. So here we get that the total cost for our vehicle was $7,100, with the total GST being $355. Now we apply this business mileage percentage to these two values, and so it's basically dividing it by 2, and we get that the business portion of these values is $35.50 and $177.5 respectively. Now, using this same percentage, we can use this in the calculating the depreciation expenses. And so this is an example that we see here. So we're assuming that the person who's driving this Uber actually bought the vehicle this year for $30,000. So normally the depreciation claim that you can claim every year is 30%, but the first year that you buy a vehicle, it's only half of 30%, so it's being 15%. So 15% of this $30,000 cost is $4,500, and then again we put in this business mileage, business portion value, which is 50% to this value, and we get that the depreciation expense that we can claim on this vehicle is $2,250. Now we put in those both those values here, so we see here 3550, 177.5, and since there's no GST on the depreciation expenses, we only put in the 2250. Now we total all of these up, and we get that our total expenses were $9,700, our net expenses, and our net income was $10,000. So we take the $10,000, take away the $9,700, and our net profit is $300. Same thing you do with the GST. You take the 250 and take away 247.5 here, and we get that the net GST is $2.5, and that's how you calculate these values when you're filing your taxes.